I'll never forget walking up to school one day, roughly 21 years ago, and seeing some classmates playing Game Boys. While this wasn't usual, I didn't think anything of it at the time. When I arrived to school the next day, quite literally every classmate had a Game Boy, and I was of course curious and asked a friend what everyone was playing. This of course was the original Pokemon Red and Blue, and naturally when I got home, I begged my parents to buy me the game. My father ended up getting me Pokemon Red, and since then I've been hooked. I always fantasized about what a console version of Pokemon would look like over the years, and after seeing Nintendo console after console come and go, I had lost hope. That is until Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee came out last year. Hello everyone, I'm Z-Slayer Dre, and today I'll be reviewing Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. And for this review I went with a Pikachu version. The Let's Go games are a combination of the mobile game Pokemon Go and the remake of Pokemon Blue and Red called Pokemon Yellow. This is the first time Nintendo has shaken up the gameplay of the Pokemon series, so let's check out the game and see how well this worked out. As usual, you play as a silent protagonist. Well, mostly silent anyways, since there are a few dialogue options, although they do not make any difference to the story. Starting their Pokemon journey from Pallet Town. This is a very faithful recreation of Pokemon Yellow, and it's incredible finally seeing the game I originally played in 2D black and white, fully realized in color in 3D. You go through the normal Pokemon journey traveling town to town while collecting gym badges, catching Pokemon, and finding other Pokemon trainers along with Team Rocket. Along your journey you'll run into your rival regularly who will battle you and give you tips and items. Once you get all 8 badges, you'll be able to challenge the Elite Four and earn the title of Pokemon Champion if you defeat them. The game also makes sure that first-time players will not get lost, often having other characters show you exactly where you need to go, so this can be a great Pokemon game for first-timers and younger players. For the most part, everything will be exactly the same as in the original Pokemon. For example, the music and Pokemon sounds are the same as in the original, but there are a few notable changes from the original game. Perhaps the biggest change is how you catch Pokemon. The random encounters are gone, and now you will see the Pokemon walking and flying around in the world. While I had no issues with the random battles, I thought it was incredible to see herds of my favorite Pokemon walking around in the world, and being able to pick and choose which Pokemon I wanted to capture instead of relying on random chance. The way you capture Pokemon has also been completely revamped. It is now closer to how Pokemon Go functions. Instead of battling wild Pokemon and weakening them down before you attempt to catch them, you can now throw Pokeballs at them as soon as you encounter them. You'll see a shrinking circle inside a catch zone, and the smaller the circle gets, the better the chance you'll have to catch the Pokemon. Depending how close you get to hitting the Pokemon at the smallest point in the shrinking circle, you'll get an okay, great, or excellent, which will give you an increased experience boost respectively. The circle will also change color to let you know how difficult it is to catch a given Pokemon. You can use better Pokeballs to give you a higher chance to catch a Pokemon, and also the more you catch of a particular Pokemon, the easier it will be to catch future Pokemon of the same species. The one exception is legendary Pokemon, who you do have to battle with before you get the chance to catch them. And leveling Pokemon has never been easier, since you get experience share automatically when you start the game. Also, the Safari Zone is now an area where you can transfer your Gen 1 Pokemon from Pokemon Go and capture them. This is a one-way only transfer though, and once you send your Pokemon to the Switch you will not be able to get them back into your mobile app. As far as the core gameplay, which is the battle system goes, it is essentially unchanged. Like in every other mainline Pokemon game, you have a set of 4 attacks along with a rock, paper, scissors approach to strengths and weaknesses. Actually seeing the Pokemon in 3D fully animated with each attack was amazing to see, and some of the attacks looked truly spectacular. I did find the difficulty to be on the easy side, and while I know this game does seem to be intended for people who haven't played a mainline Pokemon game, I do wish they could have fine-tuned it a bit better. Your team of 6 Pokemon share experience from the moment the game starts, so as long as you stick to a similar team throughout the game, you'll have a very high level group by the time you get to the Elite Four. Speaking of your Pokemon team, your starting Pokemon Pikachu or Eevee will stay by your side throughout your journey, happily perched on your shoulder. While you do not have to include them in your team of 6, they are incredibly powerful and can defeat pretty much every enemy in the game on their own. Along with their standard movesets, there will be special move trainers located in some Poke Centers that will teach them additional moves. At one point, my Pikachu learned a water attack, making him able to defeat rock and ground type Pokemon, which under normal circumstances would be difficult to say the least. Your starting Pokemon will also learn all of the HM moves, which thankfully means you do not need to dedicate a Pokemon on your team to learning all the HMs. All of the HM moves can be accessed out of combat through the Play With Your Partner option. You can also use the Play With Your Partner option to give head scratches to your Pikachu or Eevee, or feed them berries, which increases your bond with them. Both Pikachu and Eevee can be dressed up in adorable costumes as well. You could buy them from either stores or gain them through gameplay as you progress through the game. You'll even find matching outfits for you and your Pokemon if you so desire to match your clothing. There were some other minor changes as well. They got rid of held items, although to be fair, there weren't any in the original game either, so that change does make some sense. They did keep natures from the mainline games, and they function the same. For example, a modest nature would give a Pokemon a boost to special attack, which is indicated by the color pink, and a decrease to attack, which would be shown by the color blue. Individual values, or better known as IVs, are the quality of a particular stat. For example, best would indicate the highest possible potential for a stat, while no good would indicate the worst potential. IVs function the same for the most part as in the other games, but there are easy methods now to guarantee a max IV. When you catch the same Pokemon multiple times, you will start a catch streak. When you hit a streak of 11, you will start to get a guarantee of 2 max IVs, that eventually max out at a streak of 31, which guarantees 4 max IVs and 2 random ones. While it can still take a considerable amount of time to get a 5 or 6 max IV Pokemon, it is still much quicker than hatching eggs in previous games. You can also start receiving a considerable amount of experience for your Pokemon when you go on a long catch streak, so you can also raise your Pokemon's levels while you farm for a perfect IV Pokemon. While on a catch streak, you can also increase your chance to catch a shiny Pokemon, which can also be combined with a lure to further increase your chance. Lastly for stats, there's effort values, or EVs for short, which did see some significant changes in Pokemon Let's Go. You can now increase all stats by a maximum of 200 by using various candies. There are candies for each stat, and special candies that are specific to each Pokemon species, and its evolutions that raise all stats by 1. For example, you can use Pikachu candies for both Pikachu and Raichu. You will receive candies when catching Pokemon and get species-specific candies while on a catch streak. Once you beat the Pokemon League, you can use Hyper Training to increase EVs, but you need bottle caps, which are scarce, in order to do so. For the first time, the bike has been removed, and in its place you can ride specific Pokemon like Rapidash around the world. You can also use some Pokemon like Charizard to fly around as well. It's particularly incredible to have Mewtwo walk behind you as you travel around the world. And since Pokemon are to scale, some Pokemon like Onix are incredibly huge. As far as endgame goes, this is where the game runs into some issues, since I found it to be rather lacking. You can of course fight the Elite Four countless times, and repeat gym leader battles once per day. Both the Elite Four and gym leaders will have higher level Pokemon when you fight them for the second time, and this can be a great way to farm money. Cerulean Cave also makes a reappearance, so you can catch high level Pokemon after you've beaten the Elite Four. You can also use it to farm rare items, including Master Balls, although they are incredibly rare. Once you beat the Elite Four, you also see Master Trainers appear around the world. Each Master Trainer is specific to one Pokemon type at a very high level, and reward a title for each trainer you beat to be used in online battles. You can also face off against Red, Blue, and Green from the original games, who all have very high level Pokemon teams. For some reason, they did not include the new islands that were in Fire Red and Leaf Green, which makes the endgame rather lacking. Perhaps my favorite change was having the Pokemon box added to your inventory. With this change, you can now switch out your Pokemon wherever and whenever you want. It's an amazing quality of life change, and I absolutely wouldn't mind if they kept it in future games. You can do online battles, but they are not ranked, so it's really just for fun. Trading was implemented somewhat differently as well. I liked some of the old ways of trading, where you could put up a Pokemon for trade, and people could search through lists for the Pokemon they wanted. Instead now you have to find a person to trade with, and then select the same 3 Pokemon pictures as that person in order to connect with them. If anyone is having trouble finding someone to trade with, I have to give a shout out to the Pokemon Let's Go subreddit. They have a great mega thread for trading there, and that's actually how I was able to finish my Pokédex. I didn't get to play the multiplayer, although from what I've seen, it doesn't really seem to add much to the experience, and by all accounts it just makes the game far too easy. Now that I've talked about various mechanics of Pokemon Let's Go, I want to go over what I liked and disliked about the game. For starters, I have to say I had my reservations about the changes, but ultimately I ended up having a blast playing through the game. Whether or not that was just nostalgia can be argued though. The new capture system and getting rid of randomized battles does seem to have the Pokemon community split, but after playing so many Pokemon games, I personally did enjoy the change. That being said, I am perfectly fine with them going back to the original game mechanics in the next mainline game, and from what we've seen so far, it does seem like that's what they're gonna do. The importance of having all HMs move to a separate menu and not having to carry around a Pokemon on your team for the sole purpose of using HMs cannot be overstated. If one change is kept in future Pokemon games, I seriously hope it's this one. Also, I experienced 0 bugs, which is sadly pretty much unheard of nowadays. This really shouldn't be a positive to a game, since when a game company chooses to release a game it should be as bug-free as possible, but Nintendo really does seem to have a great QA team. I've seen people have some issues with the controls, although personally I didn't have too much of a problem with them. Yes, there were times when I threw a Pokeball and it would go in the complete opposite direction, but once I got the muscle memory down, I rarely missed. What did annoy me was playing in handheld mode. I almost exclusively play handheld mode laying down, and trying to catch a Pokemon that jumped to the sides would be downright obnoxious, making me have to twist and turn into uncomfortable positions. While the graphics are fine, and I do like the art direction, I do feel like they could have done better. Unfortunately, it really does just seem like an upscaled 3DS game. As far as dislikes go, I really don't have many, and as I said before, you'll either love or hate the new mechanics. So this is going to differ person to person. I did find the endgame to be very lacking, and the little that was in the game to be underwhelming at best. I didn't even bother with the Master Trainers since I found raising every single Pokemon to high level to fight them to be a monotonous task. Being able to fight the gym leaders in Elite Four again, while fun, isn't really additional content since you already do that while playing through the game. And the removal of competitive online matches really defeats the purpose of developing the perfect team of Pokemon. While I did mention there are no bugs, there were some performance issues. The FPS would drop significantly in certain areas, especially if there were too many Pokemon on the screen. This does seem to be a pretty common issue I've had on a lot of Switch games though. The price of the game is also an issue. While I can't say there's much wrong with the game and it's fun to play through, there's just not enough content to justify a full $60. While this game had a great amount of content when it was released on Game Boy in 1998, it's now 21 years later and on a home console. There just isn't enough content to justify the $60, and it really should have been priced around $30 to $40. The problem is exacerbated if you buy the Pokeball accessory to get Mew, which could set you back at least another $45 at the time of recording this video. And the Mew code is a one-time use, so if you buy the Pokeball used, you will not get Mew along with it. It really feels like Mew is being ransomed to nickel and dime people out of some extra cash, and while this is far from the worst thing a video game developer has ever done, it's still disappointing. I had some issues with the Joy-Con as well. You can only use one Joy-Con or handheld mode, and for the life of me, I can't understand why Nintendo does not give you the option to use different controllers. The tiny little Joy-Con you use to play is too small for my hand, and after about an hour I would experience quite a bit of pain from playing. I really feel like they should always give the option to use a Pro Controller instead of a single Joy-Con. Despite some of the flaws, like I said earlier, I had a blast playing through the game. For this I give Pokemon Let's Go a 7.5 out of 10. Playing it has made me excited to see more Pokemon games on the Switch, and I can't wait to play Pokemon Sword and Shield. I've seen interviews where they have stated that they want to make more games in the Let's Go series, so it'll be interesting to see if they do a gold and silver version next. For those of you who played the game already, I'm curious to see if you like the changes to catching Pokemon and the removal of randomized battles, and do you think they'll keep any of the changes for Pokemon Sword and Shield? While I was fine with the changes, I can totally understand why some people didn't enjoy them. If you enjoyed the video, I would greatly appreciate a like and make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll be doing more reviews and I'm also working on some other type of videos as well, and I'll see everyone in the next video.